In the natural world, a seemingly insignificant chain of events can lead to the destruction of structures that took years to build. Sometimes, these structures cannot be rebuilt in the same way, no matter how much we desire it. This phenomenon is akin to what dismantled my once happy marriage. My name is Robbie Patrick, no nicknames like Rob or Bob, just Robbie. The parallel between my marital downfall and a series of random occurrences is striking. My wife Carly and I fit the typical DINKS, double income, no kids, mold. We reside in a pleasant suburban home near Detroit. Both of us hold fulfilling jobs, and life has been treating us well. We had consciously decided against starting a family out of sheer self-indulgence, assuming we had all the time in the world to entertain the idea later. Thus, we focused on indulging in our hobbies, acquiring possessions, and embarking on trips to exotic locales, reveling in each other's company. I stand at 5 feet 10 inches, 170 pounds, with dark brown hair and eyes, and I maintain excellent physical condition by running 50 to 70 miles every week. I typically participate in a couple of marathons annually to keep myself in shape. Carly, my beloved, stands around 5 feet tall and weighs 160 pounds. She boasts collar-length blonde hair and radiant blue eyes. Carly possesses one of those smiles that can illuminate an entire room, perhaps even a city. She's a bit more voluptuous below the waist, with most of her weight distributed in her hips, thighs, and derriere. About a year ago, Carly became self-conscious upon noticing a slight bulge around her midsection. Personally, I found it endearing, but her dissatisfaction lingered until I suggested she join me for runs to shed the extra weight. Initially, Carly embraced the idea wholeheartedly, even investing in stylish running attire and multiple pairs of running shoes. However, the reality of our joint running ventures fell short of expectations. To put it bluntly, we were incompatible running partners. No matter how slow I paced myself, it was too fast for Carly, and when she quickened her pace, it was still too slow for me to find challenging. The solution came swiftly during our second and final joint run. Spotting a group of women running together, Carly urged me to continue solo while she joined their ranks. As summer approached, Carly's running companions shifted their routine to morning runs to escape the heat, while I adhered to my evening schedule, except for longer Sunday morning runs. Initially, this arrangement seemed to suit us both. Typically, Carly would rise at 5:30 a.m., depart by 5:45, join her running group, and return between 7 and 7:20 a.m., thrice weekly, usually on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. My routine was consistent. After Carly left for a morning run, I'd swiftly prepare her favorite Tim Hortons coffee, along with a donut or bagel, and occasionally add flowers as a pleasant surprise upon her return. I'd also take care of tasks like ironing her work clothes and ensuring her car had enough gas, all the typical gestures of a caring husband. That's how it played out on that fateful morning nearly 2 weeks ago. Carly entered our bedroom still catching her breath and flopped onto the bed beside me. Although it seemed like I was asleep, I was actually awake. She playfully poked me to check, but before her fingers could make contact, I turned and pulled her into a lingering, affectionate kiss. She smelled delightful, a detail that should have sparked some suspicion, but it didn't. "I knew you were pretending, you faker," she chuckled. I reached for the tray beside the bed, presenting her with her usual coffee, donuts, and a single red rose. A tear began to form in the corner of her eye, a reaction I found perplexing, considering I often did similar things for her. It seemed to surprise her every time, but understanding women has always been a mystery to me. "Coffee, donuts, and a rose," she remarked, mimicking the gestures of a TV detective. "I think I've cracked this case," she teased, as if narrating to an invisible audience. "It appears that someone here wasn't satisfied with riding me like a pony for half the night. The perpetrator behind the coffee, donuts, and innocent rose clearly desires some early morning intimacy," she concluded, her tone filled with desire. Needless to say, we were both late for work that morning, and many mornings after that. At the time, I believed our relationship was solid. I would have sacrificed anything for her without hesitation. How swiftly things can change. On a Wednesday evening shortly after, I returned home, changed into my running gear, and kissed Carly as she mopped the kitchen floor, a telltale sign we were expecting dinner guests. As I kissed her, I noticed a light sheen of sweat on her brow from her cleaning efforts. It didn't register much then, but a seed of doubt had been planted in my mind. "Don't stay out too late. I need you to man the grill," she instructed, exchanging my brief peck for a more passionate kiss. As our lips met, Carly's hands wandered toward the front of my shorts. "If you keep that up, I'll never leave," I teased, pulling away. "Well, I've got something down here that's been missing you all day, and it needs your attention," she replied with a mischievous grin. "I'll tend to it when I get back," I smirked, stealing one more kiss before heading out the door. A while later, about a mile into my run, I was feeling exhilarated. With Evanescence playing on my iPod, I was indulging in something I loved, and the world seemed full of beauty. Then, like a twist of fate, a drop of sweat rolled into my eye, prompting me to wipe it away. It also triggered a flashback to earlier events. Something felt off about Carly. Why would she smell fresh after a 4-mile run this morning, only to break a sweat while doing light cleaning? It didn't add up, but I couldn't quite pinpoint what was wrong. Our dinner guest turned out to be Georgette, one half of a couple we socialized with in the neighborhood. Her husband, Tom, was absent because they were going through a divorce. Carly had invited her over for support, with me tagging along. After grilling the steaks, we sat down, and Georgette began lamenting about Tom's affair with his secretary, who he had fled with to Mexico. I excused myself to the garage to tinker with my beloved '06 Mustang GT, prepping it for the Woodward Dream Cruise. Adding some billet grills to give it a unique touch, though with its Shaker Ram air hood system, it was already distinctive enough. In hindsight, I should have paid more attention to Georgette's story, but at the time, I didn't realize how relevant her experience might have been for me. The following day, Carly didn't go for her usual run, instead waking me up with a memorable morning surprise that I still feel the effects of almost 2 weeks later. "That should keep you from even thinking about your damn secretary," she teased afterward. "After you let me have my way with you last night, I was ready to fire her," I joked. Carly pulled me close, and we lingered in each other's embrace for a while. "Please, never cheat on me," she whispered softly. "I promise, I never will," I assured her sincerely. It baffled me sometimes. I loved Carly with all my heart and soul, and after 8 years of marriage, our passion still burned strong. Who in their right mind would risk jeopardizing that? Women could be enigmatic creatures. Later that night, during my run, I spotted a familiar figure in the park, someone I recognized but had never spoken to. It sounds contradictory, but it's true. I had seen her around before, but never engaged in conversation. "Hi there," I greeted, slowing my pace to match hers. "What brings you out here today?" She seemed cautious, which was understandable given she was a woman running alone and I was a stranger approaching her. "I'm Robbie," I introduced myself. However, my attempt to establish my identity seemed to have no effect. Perhaps Carly didn't mention me much during their runs. "Carly's husband," I added, hoping it would provide some clarity. She still appeared puzzled, but her smile was captivating. It wasn't a flashy, dazzling smile like Carly's, meant to charm crowds. No, this smile was subtle, barely parting her lips, yet drawing in her beautiful green eyes and even her nose, a smile reserved for one person, and that person was me. Even though I was deeply in love with my wife, that smile gave me pause. It was more than just a pause, it nearly knocked me senseless. I was so mesmerized by her smile that I didn't notice where we were running. If she hadn't grabbed my arm and pulled me away, I would have crashed right into a tree. "Who's Carly?" she asked, stifling a laugh. Now it was my turn to be puzzled. How could she not know who Carly was? "She runs with you in the mornings," I explained. "Nope, no Carly in our group," she replied. "But I've seen you around here often and wanted to talk to you," she continued. "I'm Rebecca, but everyone calls me Becca," she said, extending a small hand. "I've heard you're a marathon runner, and I'm thinking of running one too, but I'm clueless about it." "Well, I could help you with that," I offered. For the next few miles, we discussed the types of training runs she would need, like long runs and recovery runs, pacing, and selecting the right race. We even considered doing our weekend long runs together. I mentioned some people prefer Saturdays, but she insisted on Sundays. "Why, got a hot date on Saturday mornings?" I teased. "Something like that," she replied with another one of those fantastic smiles. Then, she left the running path, promising to meet me there bright and early on Sunday morning. As I finished my run, a myriad of thoughts raced through my mind. The first was, where did Carly go on the days she didn't run with Becca and her group? That night, my mind wasn't focused on sex as my loving wife tried to please me in every way possible. Afterwards, she cuddled up beside me. "Robbie, it's time," she murmured sleepily. "This is our last week." "Okay," I mumbled, pretending to be asleep. "We'll talk about it tomorrow, sleepyhead," she said before drifting off. The next morning, I stayed in bed while Carly dressed for a run and left the house. Once she was gone, I got ready as usual, but earlier than usual. This time, I decided to follow Carly. Keeping a block's distance to avoid detection, I watched her drive past the park and park near some rundown apartments. I was relieved I hadn't brought my Mustang. It would have stood out in this area. It was barely a step up from a trailer park. Carly confidently walked up to one of the apartments and knocked. The door opened, and she entered, indicating she'd done this before. I cautiously approached the apartment and peeked inside. No one seemed to be watching. Through the windows, I saw a living room in the first, empty. But the view from the second window changed everything. There was Carly undressing while a guy with a mullet relaxed. Luckily, I had the presence of mind to record with my iPhone. Carly performed a striptease, then climbed onto the bed and straddled the guy. They conversed as they had sex. Seeing Carly's indifference shattered me. I wondered why she'd risk our marriage for such mundane encounters. My heart ached. I drove home, changed, and left for work before Carly returned. At the office, I informed my secretary, Crystal, that I'd be busy with a morning call due to an emergency. When Carly called, I let it go to voicemail. Crystal informed me of Carly's call, but I declined to speak with her. Despite feeling initially clever, I realized my mistake. I needed to tread carefully until I understood the situation fully. My advantage was knowing without her knowledge. Perhaps Carly was preparing to confess. Maybe that's what her comments hinted at the night before. Her exact words were, "It was time," and that we had about a week left. Okay, fine, I thought, if she needs a week, I can handle it in 3 days. I called John Berman, an old friend and excellent attorney who worked for ADAM, the American Divorce Association for Men. "Hey, John," I said. "Robbie, how's it going?" he replied. Low and to the side, I joked, masking my true feelings. "John, this isn't a social call." "Got a friend who needs a divorce?" he asked. "Yeah, me," I confessed. "Okay, come on," he chuckled. "No, really, Carly's cheating on me with some guy," I explained. John's demeanor shifted instantly, becoming serious and professional. "Robbie, we'll need evidence for court or leverage. I have a great PI firm we can use," he advised. "We don't need them, John. Are you at a computer?" I asked. "Sure," he replied. "Give me your email," I said. I uploaded the video from my phone to my office computer and emailed it to John. "Damn, Robbie, I didn't realize you were serious." "I'm sorry," he said. "I need papers ready in 3 days, by Monday morning at 7 a.m., I instructed. "You move fast," he remarked. "Yeah, unlike Carly," I quipped. "Well, legally, it seems straightforward. We'll work overtime to get it done," he assured. "Thanks, John, you're a lifesaver," I said. "Are you sure about this, Robbie?" "You two seemed like the happiest couple," he expressed concern. "Maybe it was a one-time thing, and she's not in control." "Goodbye, John. Call my cell if there are any issues," I ended the call. Next, I contacted a locksmith for quotes on changing the locks. When I mentioned needing both locks changed at 6 a.m. on Monday, he hesitated, seeming to think it was suspicious. I explained the situation, and he agreed to do it for free. I considered hiring a moving company to pack her belongings neatly or leaving them on the lawn for her to collect later. Then I thought, screw it, let her wait until the court orders access. Or maybe I'd just toss everything out and turn on the sprinklers. Let the nosy neighbors see how the cheating woman got herself into this mess. I chose the first option. It felt the most professional, and I didn't want any revenge against Carly or her lover, Lil Abner. I just wanted the pain to stop and to move on. But one thing was certain, I swore off any involvement with another woman for the rest of my life. I'd stick with escorts. I always preferred paying up front rather than dealing with emotional costs later. By lunchtime, Carly had called my cell phone 18 times and left 4 messages with Crystal. It wasn't surprising when she showed up to take me to lunch, but the real surprise was that I wasn't there. But his car is still in the lot, Carly noted. They all went in Dave's new SUV, Crystal replied with a straight face. I had to give her credit. She might not have known what was going on, but she knew where her loyalty lay. I knew I'd eventually have to talk to Carly, but I was hoping to delay it as long as possible. I planned on working late that night. John called me back. He wanted to discuss details and informed me that his PI firm had done their job. They found out the address of the apartment from the iPhone video, along with the guy's name and the fact that he was married. How does any of this help me, John? I asked. Well, people can be surprising in legal matters, John explained. You're seeking a nice, uncontested divorce where everything stays separate. But if she starts playing the victim and brings up abuse or neglect, it could turn messy. She might ask for counseling to save the marriage, and you'd be stuck listening to her justify cheating. The court might even favor her in asset distribution. You might keep the house since it's yours, but other assets acquired during the marriage could be split evenly. I'm fine with that. I just want her gone, I replied. Oh, really? Said John. So you'd be okay with her trailer trash boyfriend driving your Mustang? Hell no. I'd rather see them both gone, I snapped. We need to be ready if she pushes back. Let me handle it. This is what I do, John assured before hanging up. Knowing Carly would be home soon, I called the house and left a message saying I'd be home late due to work issues. I avoided her cell phone because I didn't want to talk to her, trying hard to sound normal. Silly thoughts popped into my head, like Carly's plea the other night, please don't ever cheat on me. Maybe I should have asked her the same, but by then, it would have been too late. After work, I hit a strip club with the guys, staying out as long as they dared, considering they were all married. I couldn't help but wonder how many of them were dealing with the same treatment I was. I stumbled home at the ungodly hour of 7:15 p.m., the sun still up. Carly launched into the whole spiel about not calling back and my whereabouts. She tried to hug me, but I recoiled. Then I reminded her I had to prep my car for the dream cruise tomorrow. I haven't seen you all day, and you're only talking about the car, she complained. You don't love me anymore, she teased, not realizing how true her words were. Of course, I do, I lied. It's just been a rough day. I'll be out early tomorrow, and I'll be busy all day, I said. Okay, sweetie, she replied. I'll whip up dinner, and later, you can make it up to me, she winked. There was no way I was getting intimate with her again. Was she a sex addict or something? I stayed in the garage until past midnight, lucky that Carly was asleep when I returned. I set an alarm on my watch for just 5 hours of sleep and climbed into bed, as far away from her as possible. The next morning, I was gone before she woke up. In a stroke of genius, I left my iPhone on the nightstand with a word processing program open. When she found it, she'd think I was in the midst of writing a love note. She'd read it, but she wouldn't admit it to avoid seeming intrusive. Since I'd left my phone, we couldn't contact each other, hopefully delaying her realization that something was amiss between us. As I arrived at the event, another unexpected occurrence caught my attention. The Dream Cruise, once a simple celebration of classic cars and hot rods, had grown into a massive spectacle. Stretching from Ferndale to Pontiac in Michigan, the parade of vehicles became synonymous with Detroit, despite never entering the city itself. It had evolved into a series of events and parties along the route, each town adding its own twist. One such event was Mustang Alley in Ferndale. Every year, Ferndale dedicated itself to all things Mustang during the Dream Cruise. Mustangs of every make and model lined 9 Mile Road, drawing enthusiasts from all over. Clubs like the World Mustang Club and the Michigan Mustang Registry showcased their prized cars, creating a haven for fans. As I parked among the sea of Mustangs, I spotted a familiar pair of legs. Their owner, bent over attending to her car, possessed a shapely figure I couldn't ignore. Putting aside my own car, I approached her. "So, is this your boyfriend's ride?" I teased. Becca straightened up, flashing me a smile. "No boyfriend. This beauty is mine," she replied. Impressed, I began to identify the details of her car. 09 V6 Vert, with a Mac Performance exhaust and Hello T's 18-inch rims, I remarked. "Wow, you really know your Mustangs," Becca said, intrigued. "How could you tell it's a V6 and not a GT?" I explained the subtle differences, earning a nod of approval. Then, she asked about my presence and if my wife, whose name she couldn't recall, was with me. "It's Carly," I replied, somberly. "And in a couple of days, she'll be my ex-wife." Our conversation took a solemn turn until fate intervened with a voice behind me. I turned to find Becca standing there, looking effortlessly stunning. She wore a simple t-shirt and shorts that, while not revealing much skin, still managed to accentuate her figure. Her casual attire outshone the glamorous car show models nearby. "Wow, what a beauty! What model is this?" she exclaimed, admiring my 06 GT. "If this belongs to your soon-to-be ex-wife, you must really care about her," she teased, then quickly realized her misstep and reached out to console me. Her touch sent a jolt through me, momentarily erasing thoughts of my ex-wife's betrayal. "So, what's the problem, Becca?" I asked. "What did you bring for lunch?" she inquired. Feeling foolish for not bringing anything, I suggested McDonald's nearby. "Why settle for that when I have a trunk full of gourmet food?" she questioned. "I'm willing to share." Skeptical, I mumbled about women always wanting something in return. But ultimately, I offered her whatever she needed. "I forgot my detailing supplies," she confessed, listing off what she required. Rummaging in my trunk, I handed her everything she asked for, even showing her how to use some of the tools efficiently. As we spent the day chatting behind our cars, Becca revealed she'd been through a divorce herself, understanding my situation more than I realized. When it was time to part ways, I hesitated to ask her to dinner, unsure if it was appropriate given the circumstances. We bid farewell, but her parting words hinted at seeing each other again. Returning home, I found Carly dressed provocatively, ready for a romantic evening. Despite her efforts, I feigned illness, unable to shake the image of Becca from my mind. "If you have it, then I'll just catch it too," she remarked. I was more concerned about what I might catch from her, but wisely kept my thoughts to myself. "Well, this is a good time for us to have our talk," she stated. "Is this a serious subject?" I inquired. "Very serious," she affirmed. "Is it time sensitive? Do we need to make a decision right away?" I asked. "Why are you asking that?" she responded. "Well, I have to do a really long run in the morning, and I'm thinking that maybe we should, if we can, put this off until Monday night," I suggested. "That way, all of my work stuff will be over, my longest run of the week will be out of the way, and I'll be able to really concentrate fully on whatever you have to say." Carly seemed to consider my proposal and then agreed, "Okay, it's nothing that can't wait one more day. When we talk about this, I think you're going to be surprised because it's going to change our lives. I hope you're okay with it because I really want us to do this." "Oh yeah, but I'm beating you to the punch," I thought, convinced she was leaving me for that man she'd been involved with. I couldn't comprehend what made him better than me. It couldn't be just sex because, from what I saw, it was nowhere near as intense as what we shared. But then I realized that I was the one who didn't understand. Maybe what she got from him was what she truly desired, and if so, I was better off without her. I swore never to let another woman own my heart and emotions like this again. Yet, despite my resolve, thoughts of Becca crept into my mind. Sunday brought a sense of relief. I was awake before sunrise, looking forward to my long run for the first time in years. Carly had wrapped herself around me during the night, unaware of the true significance of her gesture. As I gently extricated myself from her embrace, I realized how much my feelings had changed in just 2 days. She was no longer the woman I loved, but just another source of pain that I needed to escape. I quickly dressed and grabbed some leftover pizza from a couple of days ago for a pre-run snack. After tossing some drinks and snacks into a cooler, I headed out. To my surprise, near the door, I found almost identical items packed and waiting for me, accompanied by a note from Carly. The note expressed concern about the heat and urged caution during my run, signed Forever Yours, Carly. Despite the heartfelt message, I couldn't help but chuckle at the irony. Here she was, professing love while engaging in an affair. Opting to drive my Taurus instead of the Mustang to avoid sweat, I couldn't contain my laughter as I drove to the park. As I parked near Becca's Mustang, I admired her sitting on top of it. She greeted me with a smile, commenting on my choice of car to preserve the Mustang. Our banter was easy, and despite the awkward moment, our chemistry was palpable. Setting out on our run, we took in the scenic loop of the park. As the sun rose, illuminating the landscape, I found myself appreciating the beauty in a way I hadn't before. Noticing my contemplation, Becca inquired, and I credited her company for my newfound appreciation. Expressing mutual fondness, we delved into deeper conversation, where I divulged the truth about my impending divorce and Carly's infidelity. Becca's reaction was candid, expressing disdain for Carly's actions. Despite a brief slip of the tongue, her empathy was evident. Suddenly realizing the time, I suggested Becca cool down with a walk. Her response was fierce, defending her outburst and expressing admiration for my character. It was a moment of shared understanding and newfound connection. "Becca, I'm not trying to get rid of you," I reassured her, indicating my watch. "We just passed 16 miles. "Oh," she responded. "I'm sure you have things to do today," I continued. "It was a great run, and I left my trunk open. There are drinks and snacks, so you should grab something and start refueling as soon as you can." Becca slowed to a walk and took a shortcut across the infield past the tennis courts. When I finished that loop, I still had another 5 miles to go, and I noticed Becca's car was gone. Exhausted, I barely made it back to my car. Reaching for a Pepsi in my trunk, I realized my cooler was missing, replaced by a note reading "Picnic Area Big Oak Tree." Too weary to walk, I drove to the picnic area. There was Becca's car and my cooler. Relief flooded over me as I approached. Becca had somehow turned my fruit and snacks into a makeshift breakfast, complete with paper plates. "There you are," Becca greeted, breaking the silence. "Did you miss me?" "I thought you'd gone home," I admitted. "I'm so sore that I could hit you," she joked, "but I wasn't ready for this to end yet." We spent a couple more hours there, chatting before heading home. Upon arriving, Carly was waiting, as usual. She seemed genuinely concerned, but I couldn't shake my suspicions. "Why were you gone for so long?" she inquired. "I think I pulled something," I fibbed. "It really hurts, but I had to finish." Concerned, she ran a bath and offered pain relief. As she mentioned visiting her mother, I inadvertently almost revealed my plans. "Why don't you go?" I suggested hastily, realizing my slip-up. "I'll probably just fall asleep." "No, I should stay with you," she insisted, eyeing me suspiciously. "Carly, go." I insisted firmly, hoping she wouldn't press further. I was convinced she was off to be with Goober, but frankly, I didn't care where she went or how long she stayed, as long as she was back tomorrow at 7 to be served with divorce papers. Whether I wanted to be here or not was still up in the air. After a long bath to recover from my run, I tried to sleep, but my mind kept drifting to Becca, and not all my thoughts were innocent. I pondered the difference between what Carly was doing and what I was imagining. The only distinction seemed to be that Carly had acted on it, whereas I had only entertained the idea after realizing life with Carly was no longer an option. My dreams were a bizarre mix of Carly and Gomer Pyle having a quiet, uneventful rendezvous beside me, followed by Carly announcing she was pregnant with a hat-wearing, hay-chewing baby whose first words were Shazam. I eventually dozed off, unsure of what time Carly returned. There were signs she had been out, but I couldn't be certain. As the alarm ticked down to the moment of truth, I debated whether to call off the divorce. Despite everything, it felt good to lie beside someone who seemed to adore me, even if it was all a facade. When Carly started to rise, tears welled up in my eyes, and I abandoned my resolve not to intervene. "Why don't you stay home today?" I suggested, betraying my own rule. "Maybe next time, sweetie," she replied, kissing me. "But today, I really need to go." "One run more or less won't kill you," I retorted. "This one is really important," she explained. "It's just something I need to do." And with that, the die was cast. As I watched Carly dress for what would likely be the last time, a sense of sadness washed over me. Despite everything, she had been the sexiest woman in my world until just a few days ago, and I would miss what we had, even if it was all built on lies. "Feeling better?" she asked, lightly kissing my cheek before leaving. "Hi, Carly," John replied. "I'm so sorry about all of this. How are you holding up?" "I'm trying to stay strong," I said, my voice wavering slightly. "But it's tough." "I understand," John said sympathetically. "Listen, I've taken care of everything on Robbie's end. The paperwork is in order, and we've ensured that you'll have what you need during the transition." "Thank you, John," I said, feeling a rush of gratitude for his support. "Of course, Carly. We'll get through this together," he assured me. After hanging up, I tried to distract myself by helping my mom with dinner. But my mind kept drifting back to Robbie and the life we had built together. As the evening wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling of disbelief. How had things gone so wrong? Was there any chance of salvaging our relationship, or was it truly over? Eventually, exhaustion caught up with me, and I retreated to the guest room. But sleep was elusive as my thoughts continued to race. In the morning, I woke up feeling numb, the reality of the situation hitting me once again. I knew I needed to face the day ahead, but I wasn't sure how to muster the strength to do so. With a heavy heart, I picked up the phone and dialed John's number, bracing myself for the difficult conversations that lay ahead. "Carly?" John's voice came through the phone cautiously. "Yes," I replied, my voice cracking with emotion. "Carly, we shouldn't be having this conversation without your attorney present," he advised. "I don't have one," I confessed tearfully. "Well, speaking as your friend, you really should consider getting one," John urged. "Why, John? I don't want a lawyer, I don't want a divorce, I just want Robbie," I sobbed. "Tell him I'll do anything he wants. I don't understand why this is happening. I love him so much." "Carly, if you get a lawyer, we can arrange a meeting to discuss the matter. Robbie is trying very hard to be fair with you," John explained earnestly. "He wants this to be as amicable as possible. You keep all your belongings, and he keeps his. The only thing he wants is the house and his Mustang. You can have everything else, including the furniture. And even though you bought the car together, he wants you to keep it." "Why is he doing this?" I wailed. "Carly, get a lawyer, and we'll set up a meeting," John reiterated. "Okay, I'll have one in an hour," I agreed. "We'll schedule the meeting for 9 a.m. tomorrow morning at my office," he confirmed before ending the call. As I hung up, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was influencing Robbie to divorce me. But then I remembered his recent odd behavior and our lack of intimacy since Thursday. Despite it being only a few days, our usual closeness had vanished. Tears welled up again as I considered the situation. Then it hit me. I knew what might be driving Robbie's actions. It was a conversation we had earlier in the week about a significant lifestyle change. Perhaps he wasn't ready for it, and it was causing him to second-guess our relationship. If that was the case, I was willing to give it up for him. Our marriage meant more to me than any personal desires. I grabbed the phone book and dialed the first lawyer I found. After discussing my situation, he advised me to attend the meeting and hear Robbie out. Maybe there was a chance to salvage our relationship. And now, here I sit at the table, waiting for John and Robbie. Despite my attorney's youth, I trust him to facilitate this crucial conversation. Divorce isn't an option. I'll fight for my marriage until the end. John entered the room, followed by my husband, Robbie. He looked particularly well put together today, and I couldn't help but smile when I saw him. However, my smile quickly faded when I noticed the pain in his eyes as he avoided my gaze. Unable to bear the weight of his hurt, I blurted out, "Okay, Robbie, if you don't want to have a baby with me, I'll forget the whole thing. Let's just go home. Robbie and John both looked shocked, clearly unaware of what I was talking about. Carly, what are you talking about? Robbie asked, his tone gentle. I know you figured out that I wanted to discuss having children, and you're not ready to be a father, maybe never, I confessed. So you assumed that since I want kids and you don't, we should get a divorce so we can both have what we want. But, Robbie, I love you, he snorted at my words, I love only you, and without you, I don't have a life. So we don't have to have kids yet, or ever, I concluded sadly. For a while, silence filled the room, thick and palpable. Then Robbie approached the television at the end of the table and switched it on. I was hoping not to have to do this, he said gently. I was only going to resort to this if things turned ugly. As he spoke, I noticed him struggling to hold back tears, and my heart shattered anew. Carly, I would have loved to have children with you. I can't imagine anything that would have made me happier, until Friday morning, he admitted, his voice catching. Then, Robbie, why can't we have them? I pleaded. Because I'd never be sure they were mine, and I can't share you, Carly. So we need a divorce, he explained. Robbie pointed a remote at the TV, and a video began playing. It was surreal to see myself on screen, and the experience was disorienting. My initial thought was that I appeared a bit heavier than I had imagined. As I watched the footage, I recognized the setting, and dread washed over me. Please, let this not be true, I prayed silently. But it was. On screen, I shed my clothes as I approached someone named Mark, who was already on the bed. Watching myself climb onto the bed, I couldn't help but notice how large my rear looked. The scene didn't accurately depict what had happened. I had only allowed Mark to pleasure me to get aroused, as he didn't quite do it for me visually. Would anyone understand that? My lawyer's expression suggested otherwise. He appeared as though he felt betrayed. Watching the footage of myself engaging in sexual activity with Mark filled me with an overwhelming sense of embarrassment and shame. Seeing Robbie's tears streaming down his face felt like a crushing weight on my chest, squeezing the life out of me. Suddenly, the reality of potentially losing him for good hit me like a ton of bricks. Until now, none of this had seemed real. It was like a nightmare I would wake up from, and everything would be back to normal. Determined not to lose Robbie without a fight, I desperately tried to explain, Robbie, it's not what it looks like. I can explain. Robbie, I don't love him, I only love you. Robbie remained silent, his head bowed in anguish, refusing to meet my gaze. John suggested we take a recess to confer, and they left the room together. Alone with my attorney, he erupted in anger, berating me for not disclosing the situation earlier. You've already lost, so sign the papers before they change their minds. He's being surprisingly lenient, and his lawyer is going easy on you. If I were representing him, we'd be filing for adultery and releasing that video to everyone. We'd also sue your lover for alienation of affection, and if he's married, I'd represent his wife too, he seethed. Just sign the papers, he snapped. But I want my husband back, I pleaded. My attorney's disappointment was palpable, mirroring the frustration of a parent whose child drops an ice cream cone just after they bought it. His expression said it all, you've messed up, and there's nothing we can do about it. We can suggest counseling, but it's unlikely to work. He loves you deeply, but you've devastated him. If he brings this to court and shows that video, you'll lose everything, he explained sharply. As a final favor, I'm resigning from your case. They can't proceed until you have new representation, buying you some time, he informed me as he packed his briefcase. I'll send you the bill, he added before leaving the room, offering a brief apology to Robbie on his way out. When Robbie and John returned, I braced myself for what would come next. I understand that my lawyer quit, but please, let me explain. Can we just talk? I pleaded with Robbie. He nodded, a solemn expression on his face, indicating his readiness to hear me out, though it seemed like he was eager to get this conversation over with and move on from me. John interjected, only if you agree to sign a release, acknowledging that you're proceeding without legal representation and consenting to the conversation being recorded. Fine, I replied dismissively. Robbie, I love you more than anything, I began, gathering my thoughts. but I despised running, and I wasn't good at it. Then I ran into Mark, an old acquaintance from college, who had plenty of free time since he wasn't working. Initially, we just hung out while I was supposed to be running. But his compliments about my appearance, especially in those tight running outfits, boosted my ego. It felt flattering to hear those words from someone other than my husband, even though you tell me I'm beautiful every day because you love me. Eventually, things escalated, and one thing led to another. It wasn't about sex, it was just a distraction, I explained, realizing the feebleness of my excuse. Maybe the thrill of someone else's desire made it exciting. But it had nothing to do with love. I love only you, I emphasized. Pausing to catch my breath, I continued, the day you filmed that video was the day I ended things with him. I couldn't continue lying to you, and I wanted us to start a family. I stopped taking the pill because I wanted only you to father our child. When he suggested I'd come back to him in a week, claiming I'd miss him and our hot sex, I laughed because the reality was quite different. The sex was dull compared to what we share, Robbie. He was just a distraction. You're the one I truly desire. My words sounded hollow even to my own ears. Robbie extended the divorce papers towards me, but I recoiled, feeling a surge of desperation. I have 4 questions for you, Robbie began, his tone serious. The first 3 are simple. If you can answer all 4, I'll tear up these papers and we'll try to salvage our marriage. But if you can't answer any one of them, you need to let me go. I nodded, steeling myself for what was to come. Do you love me? He asked. With all my heart and soul, I replied without hesitation. Did I love you? He asked. You really seemed to. Okay, yes, I believe you did, I said. Did I ever beat you, mistreat you, or refuse to listen to your opinion? Did I ever make it so that you couldn't come to me if something was wrong? He inquired. Nope, none of that, I smiled. Then why was it easier for you to have an affair with some farmhand behind my back for a year, destroying our marriage, than to simply say, Robbie, I don't enjoy running, he questioned, his tone tinged with hurt. I had no answer to that question. I just sat there, steadfast in my refusal to sign the divorce papers. For weeks, I resisted, and Robbie never stooped to any vindictive behavior. He didn't release the videos online or share them with my friends. He never uttered a negative word about me. We went to counseling, both individually and together, but it didn't lead anywhere. Despite my willingness to do anything to salvage our marriage, including living apart and starting anew, Robbie was resolute in his desire to end things. He said he couldn't bear to look at me or trust me anymore. I even suggested a lockable chastity belt, but his response was only sadness. He covered the costs of the counseling sessions since I was missing work and didn't have the funds. Yet, it felt futile to work hard every day for nothing. I watched the light in his eyes change gradually. Whereas he once brightened upon seeing me, now there was only sadness in his gaze. It seemed as though someone or something else brought him joy, while I served as a painful reminder of the past. Eventually, I couldn't bear it any longer, and I signed the divorce papers. I knew that even if we spent some time apart, eventually, time would bring us back together. I came to realize the gravity of my actions and hoped that being separated from him for a while would demonstrate my remorse and commitment to never hurting him again. Moreover, I hoped he would realize that no one could love him as deeply as I did. His words during our meeting with the lawyers echoed in my mind, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the pain. He had said, Carly, I would love to have babies with you. No matter what, I held on to that hope. Robbie went on a solo cruise to reflect on his desires. I prayed that what he wanted was me. About 6 or 7 months later, I was driving past the park and thought I spotted him running. He always looked impeccable when he ran, with that smooth, effortless stride devouring the miles. People often talk about the benefits of running, but there's a joke about why runners seem so miserable. Robbie, however, defied that notion. He ran with the biggest smile, almost as radiant as the one he used to reserve for me. As he neared his trusty old Taurus, he paused, seemingly laughing. It seemed like his depression from our marriage ending had lifted. Running must have been his therapy. I slowed down, hoping he was ready to talk. I'd been praying for this moment for nearly a year. Then I saw the reason for his joy. She came running down the path, nearly matching his speed and grace. Despite my resentment, I couldn't deny she was stunning. With a charming smile, she exchanged banter with him. I wished I could hear their conversation. He laughed, seemingly victorious. Then she did something that shattered me. She shook her head no and pointed to a slight bulge in her otherwise perfect figure. As I strained to see, I realized she was pregnant. My heart sank as Robbie tenderly touched her belly, listening closely and planting a kiss. She affectionately stroked his head, and they shared a kiss. That foolish woman was carrying my husband's baby. What was my initial thought upon witnessing that poignant moment meant for us? The steering wheel of my car, because I was so distracted that I crossed into oncoming traffic. The truck that collided with me never stood a chance. Thankfully, I died instantly, spared from any further agony. Yet, truthfully, from the moment I saw her carrying the child I should have had, I had already died inside. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Write your opinion in the comments.